Okay, so this is my favorite subject because I wanted to talk about Joe Biden. Uncle Joe and the Democrats and the Biden administration, of course, approved the $735 million to Israel in spite of what Israel's obviously going to be using that money for, is to commit genocide on Palestinians, continue killing more babies, more children, more families. Continue, displacing people, basically aiding in this genocide. Now, that was always going to happen because Joe Biden received over $3 million from pro-Israel Israeli groups. Now,
I'm a Zionist, fam.
He's always been one, and he's never hit it. That's the worst part. People, like I said, got amnesia because it was Donald Trump versus Joe Biden. They pretended that Joe Biden's 47-year record didn't exist. Now, let's look at the latest numbers. I think they've even gone up, actually.
Yeah.
The Gaza Health Ministry, I think it's now 227.
Yep.
Including 63 children and 36 women, perhaps 64 now, in addition to 1,500 others injured, what I was reading this morning. But that's what I'm saying. This toll keeps going up, and you guys can look at the disaster that is Gaza. You can't even say, oh, what conditions are in Gaza. The conditions are people are getting murdered. People are getting killed. And with our weapons and with the funding by the United States. And, of course, gallantly, like I said, Joe Biden has decided to give them, I'll just use the pictures, the money, right? And so the Washington Post reported that Joe Biden administration approved $735 million, and these are precision guided weapons specifically to Israel, raising red flags for some of the House Democrats who are part of a shifting debate over the U.S. government's support for the Israeli government and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
Fam, it's shifting now.
Now
it's shifting.
There's a lot going on with that.
Please.
We could get into that. We were all talking in the chat. But okay, so they were officially notified, right? This is what I'm saying. This was going to happen. They were officially notified of this on May 5th. Excuse me. 3 people based on Capitol Hill said that this is the case, right? The 3 journalists. Now, that was a week before Hamas. This is what the Washington Post writes, right? They say that was nearly a week before Hamas, a terrorism designated organization that controls the Gaza Strip, began intense rocket attacks against Israel that have reportedly killed at least 10 Israelis.
Really?
Notice how they point out 10 dead Israelis, but not like the 227 dead people like Palestinians when it comes to this, right? And look how they paint them as terrorists, etc. And so then it says, okay, they left nearly 200 Palestinians dead and sparked worldwide calls for diplomatic action. Yeah. This crisis is the worst since the 2014 Hamas-Israeli war that lasted nearly 2 months. Okay, that we've talked about that before. The Hamas framing is just
ridiculous.
But yeah, the Hamas framing out of control here, right? And so Donald Trump, let's go back to Donald Trump on the next one. Donald Trump had vetoed 3 resolutions passed by Congress in 2019 to stop arms sales benefiting Saudi Arabia and the UAE after the House and Senate voted to block the arms deal worth more than $8 billion. Now, this was, of course, because of what was going on with Yemen, right? The United States is always on the sidelines, or actually, right there, pushing when it comes to genocide, both in Yemen through Saudi Arabia and, of course, Palestine and Israel. Now, that's just showing you that, whoever, it doesn't matter who's in power, right? This is still going to be an issue. But a spokesperson for the House Foreign Affairs Committee confirmed that Congress was notified on May 5th of the commercial deal in which Boeing will provide the weapons to Israel. Oh. So they were specifically notified about Boeing providing weapons to Israel. But some foreign affairs lawmakers were caught off guard over the weekend when they first learned of the sale, according to a source with knowledge, blah, blah, blah. So,
excuse me for a second. Bullshit.
Right.
Sorry.
Right. According to a source, they didn't know. They were caught off guard,
fam.
but they were supposedly notified a long time ago. Now, this is what I mean by it was always going to happen. They know what's going on. They know we fund this. They know that many of them are actually powerless to do anything because we live in an empire. And when you live in an empire, you have very little power to do any of this, right? So Rashida Tlaib, like I said, she's been better than the rest when it comes to this issue, but still There's a
Sucks.
lot of virtue signaling.
Bullshit.
So there was an interaction with Biden, right? She interacted with him, and this is from the New York Times. She was on a tarmac in Detroit, and she confronted President Biden on the U.S. support for Israel, and she basically told him like he's got to stop the money, like the weapons deal. He's got to stop that, and he was extremely condescending. So I'm gonna read a little bit of that, a little bit of what she said. Basically, they described this as it was a very compassionate, honest discussion. But the president doesn't deal with these kinds of issues in public, and he doesn't negotiate in public. Oh, my God. He's so above that. Mr. Biden shook Ms. Tlaib's hand after the conversation and later praised the congresswoman during his public remarks at the factory in Dearborn.
Here, let me do that. You can't. Yeah.
Your computer is
unfortunately. No, this is the slides. You got to be careful with that. Okay.
He said, I admire your intellect, I admire your passion, and I admire your concern for so many other people, said Biden, before referring to Tlaib's grandmother, Muftia Tlaib, who lives in the West Bank. From my heart, I pray that your grandmom and family are well. I promise you I'll do everything to see that they are. Okay, so because she's a congresswoman, we're going to take care of her, but like, I pray that they're well. Is your prayer going to save these people? Like, and so, you know, that's Tlaib went in there. That happened. The cameras were, you know, just automatically there to capture that moment. Ooh, the squad is fighting back.
Yeah.
But where are the actions, right? Where I needed some actions. And did you have anything to say before I go on?
Well, if we're sticking on Tlaib, once again, Tlaib the other day said on TV, well, this is Hamas. We don't stand by Hamas and stuff like that. That's not your place to say that. If the people of Palestine have voted in Hamas as their government, it's their right to have Hamas represent them. Yeah, we don't like everything about them, but we know when Hamas started, it was funded by Israel back in the days as a countermeasure to the PLO, which was a what? A secular socialist government. They didn't want that, so they allowed this to happen to bring in, which is also equivalent to the Muslim Brotherhood.
Yeah, they brought. Yeah.
I mean, but that's their choice, and if that's their choice, we have to respect that. The whole Hamas excuse for doing what they're doing is getting fucking old. It's getting
beyond,
old. It's beyond old at this point. It's not an excuse to manufacture consent for your death.
And that's exactly what you do every time you bring up Hamas must be condemned. Because if you are really for helping Palestine, you know that under international law, they have every right to actually retaliate because they're in an open air prison. They can't leave. Yeah. This is not a war where you have two giant armies facing off each other. No. You have one side that has an army, one side that has a non-existent army.
Shooting bottle rockets.
And so and they're getting help from, of course, Syria, Lebanon, etc., countries that we have vilified to no end, by the way. And so when you condemn Hamas, you're really showing you're not really on the side of Palestinians, because as a Westerner, you have no rights, as your country is funding the death of these people, to say, oh, actually, don't do it this way, do it that way. You're not getting bombed on. Your family isn't in danger. You have zero right to say that. And so when politicians especially manufacture consent of, oh, these are violent terrorists, Hamas, you're not doing them any favors. Yeah. You have to be, and I interviewed Eva Bartlett this morning, and I'm going to be releasing that tomorrow, likely. And, one of the things that she really talked about, because she's been in the region, she was in the region for years early on, and, very little has changed. It's only the public, the awareness that is now changing. But when you say you support Palestine, you can't be saying, oh, let's condemn Hamas. She made that point. It's like you can't be doing that.
Yeah. Why don't they even mention the fact that, and this is not a secret thing, that Israel funded Hamas in the beginning? Nobody talks about that. You have no right to say, okay, well, Hamas is the problem now when you created that beast. No right. Zero. So shut the hell up and stop. Yeah. It's bullshit. It's bullshit.
One more thing I want to say is that before this, the divisions in Palestine, the political divisions were stronger. Now, all of those people have put their issues aside and have united in an effort to fight for Palestine. That's what's happening now as we speak, and there's a reason for that, right? Yeah. And now that the people are getting kind of this feeling that there are more eyes because of the internet, because of TikTok, because of just the access to information, and also it's just hard. Israel's losing the narrative, and so now they're doing everything they can to salvage it. Of course, the United States is still backing them, and so when I asked Eva, is a resolution, is that the answer? It's like, well, no, like we're still gonna fund Israel as long as we fund Israel.
Yeah,
right. This is gonna keep happening. So AOC. Okay, and this is from the Jewish Current. Breaking news today, progressive legislators, not just AOC, but of course the progressives, will be introducing a resolution. They haven't done it yet. They're on the verge of doing
it.
Blocking bomb sales to Israel. So okay, so this was AOC, Wisconsin Congressman Mark Pocan, who is a dick.
There he is.
He's a dick. Michigan Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib are preparing to introduce a resolution that would block the United States' planned $735 million sale of bombs to Israel. It was already approved. It's gonna happen.
It's a resolution. Ain't gonna stop anything.
An early draft of the legislation obtained by the Jewish Current. The resolution would halt the planned transfer of so-called JDAMS, or the Joint Direct Attack Munitions, and of small diameter bombs, both of which bombs are outfitted with special guidance systems to hit their intended targets. Their intended targets being children and families. Both types of explosives are made by the Chicago-based weapons manufacturer Boeing. Israel has used these JDAMS and small diameter bombs in its current attack on Gaza. So they're already using them. The United States has approved millions of dollars to supply them more. And they said, at a time when so many, including our president, support a ceasefire, we should not be sending direct attack weaponry to Prime Minister Netanyahu to prolong this violence. It is long past time to end the U.S. policy of unconditional military arms sales, particularly to governments that have violated human rights. This is an email from AOC's office. And
you hear the language on it, though, Sam? At a time when our president, even says what it's at a time when so many, including our presidents, support a ceasefire.
Right.
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't.
No, he fucking doesn't.
He didn't support a ceasefire.
Jesus
he said,
Christ.
This is what he said, by the way, for those of you wondering what Biden had actually said, I support a ceasefire if both parties are in accordance to that. But he still, as he said that, said Israel has the right to defend itself and approved $730 million for this precise reason, to bomb Palestinians. How can he also be for a ceasefire? It's just like running PR narrative yet again for Joe Biden administration. This is, so once they introduce this, right, Nancy Pelosi has to refer to this type of bill to the House Foreign Affairs Committee, and then they have the jurisdiction over the arms sales. A few of these people, of these House Foreign Affairs Committee members, have already said that they don't support the sale. So among them are, of course, Joaquin Castro, Ilhan Omar, who have opposed it, and they are kind of relying on that. But I mean, this is likely not going to happen. It's got to get past the 51 members of this committee, which is unlikely because it includes a large number of pro-Israel legislators on both the Democrat and Republican side. And it can only be considered for 15 days after Congress is notified of a planned sale. Because Congress was informed of the sale on May 5th, here we go, the House has only until May 20th to consider it. What's the date? Guys, what's the date?
Tomorrow.
Oh, that's right. Tomorrow. Okay.
This is fucking virtue signaling.
This is like,
this
oh,
is
look,
bunch
the
of
squad.
bullshit. This is the provide
them.
cover for the fucking squad that doesn't do shit.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's dead on arrival, guys. It's dead on arrival. But guess what? Guess what the progressive indie media is all doing? Oh my God, AOC and the squad, look how they're trying. We need 100 more of them. We need them, blah, blah, blah. Guys, they have till tomorrow. This is dead on arrival. It's happening
it's
already.
Only a resolution too, so it's not even fucking
It's not a
binding.
legally binding document.
Yes.
The squad was able to push for impeachment multiple times when it came to Donald Trump.
Yeah, Rashida.
What the hell, dude? Where is like the same force? Like, this is like people dying. Oh, by the way, also, Guess who was actually fighting for a defunding of Israel? Councilwoman Shama Sawant is the one that is pushing legislation to defund Israel. Why do we have to rely on Councilwoman Shama Sawant? She's a city councilwoman. Why aren't you doing what she's doing? That is where we have to go, because regardless of your resolutions, guys, anything we live in an empire that is basically uses Israel as its other gigantic military base in the Middle East. And you like, it's any electoralism can't just stand alone. It's got to be pushed by direct action, obviously. But if you're going to push for something, don't push for non-binding resolutions. Push for defund Israel, because that's right now we're funding Israel and we're not even funding ourselves. You're not getting anything. You're funding genocide. That has to end. I don't understand why it's so like crazy to say that. It's not a radical idea. We shouldn't be paying another country that's not even a country, it's an occupation, to exist. To exist and torture and expand its empire on other people through genocide. Like, we shouldn't be doing that. Americans should be appalled that the interference of the Israeli government on your affairs. You were so appalled with Russia supposedly interfering in your elections, which was disproven. But when it comes to Israel, we're just going to allow them to do whatever they want.
Yeah. Fam, I just got to say, too, I want to take a little, I'm not taking a jab, but I'm pointing the finger, too, at all those conservative people, those Trump people who always say, well, we got to stop giving money to all these other countries. This is ridiculous. We give all this money out. But when we give money to Israel, well, it's okay to give it to them because Trump said it was okay. Like, no, bullshit. You're against defunding, giving out all this money to all these other countries. Israel should be on that list, too, as well. So you can't separate the two. You're just being hypocritical.
Yeah, it's absolute hypocrisy. It's absolute hypocrisy. And yeah, like basically the same thing I just said. Like, stop making excuses for the squad. People keep saying, well, they don't have a majority. We need 100 more of them.
Oh my God.
But they immediately push legislation to impeach Trump. What's more important than defunding the Pentagon? That's taking your money to kill people. I mean, that's supposedly, right? Like, they're taking your tax dollars to kill people. Now people say, well, that's not true, blah, blah, blah. But that's what they say. They say, we don't have money for this. We don't have money for this, but we'll approve millions and millions of dollars.
What does Jackson Hinkle say?
So, just so you guys know, the Justice Democrats elected to Congress in 2020 accepted $108,026 in pro-Israel campaign contributions. There is the list. Okay.
Jayapal's on that list.
Marie Newman, over 63,000, over 22,000.
Rokfin,
over 12,000. Jayapal, over 5,000. Raul, I don't know who that is. And over 3,000 for Bauman. Like, now,
welcome to the table. Welcome to the team, Bauman.
I'd have to look into the specifics of how much, like, what do you mean by pro-Israel? I know the vast majority of Democrats take money from, because it's such a vast,
they're darlings of AIPAC,
but also
they're darlings of AIPAC,
but it's just so big. Like, it's just, Israel has such a big hold in our government. People don't even understand just how
they
much
control it, especially our foreign policy. Fam, now this made me disgusted right here when I saw this and stuff. When you're sitting there and
these
you're saying,
are the real journalists, by the way.
When the Convo Couch was started, we started the Convo Couch because of these fucking jerk-offs. These are not journalists. These are stenographers. These are not journalists. They're there. They're the PR team for the propagandist fucking right-wing government that we have, left-wing government establishment bullshit, whatever you want to call it. This is them for the elites right here. Look at this. This makes me disgusted.
Quick.
How's it drive?
Would you
buy one of these?
I would.
How does it feel to be behind the wheel, sir?
It feels great. I tell you what. Now, I don't know if anybody has a stopwatch, but I think if we're going 0 to 60 in about 4.3. 4.4?
Right.
4 flat?
Well, we haven't released the president.
I should be quiet.
Mr. President, how fast were you going?
Okay, I'm just going to step on it. I'll come off at 80 miles an hour. You'll see what it is, okay? You ready?
Mr. President, can I ask you a quick question on Israel before you drive
No,
away?
you can't. Not unless you get in front of the car as I step on it. I'm only teasing. Okay, here we go. You ready?
See it, sir.
You ready? Fantastic.
All right,
And
our best test driver ever.
I think that was
How funny is that? Our president.
He's so cute. Look at him.
Look at
Can I ask you a
that.
question about Israel? No, you can't, or I'll run you over. Oh, okay.
How dumb do you look when you're a
Like-
president who doesn't take public comments? You won't let him you have a controlled environment at all times,
If
right?
Trump did this,
Yes.
imagine the outcry. I
Oh,
just
yeah.
want to throw that out there.
Yeah.
Imagine the outcry if Trump said, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna." Oh my God, Trump doesn't care about Palestinian lives. Look at what he's saying. Oh my God, Trump is so out of touch. That's what they would be saying.
Yeah.
This is what happens when you have a Joe Biden. The media just like, oh
Coddles
my God,
him.
they coddle him. They like love him. They
Oh my
like,
God,
oh my
Joe,
God, Joe.
you're such a good driver.
Like, that's the problem I have with having a president like Joe Biden, because then we have to work twice as hard, because now we have to do their job and also do our job, and it's like 10,000 times bigger, because now it's not as obvious for you to hate the idiot in the White House. It's not as obvious because they defend him and they're powerful and they have money, endless money, endless resources that we don't have. And it's disgusting to me that these people are considered journalists. These people are not fucking journalists. They're propagandists. Look at them. They're just cheerleaders for Joe Biden. If I was there, I would demand, hello, Mr. President,
Why are
people
you
are
funding-
dying. Why
Yeah.
are you not answering this question
Yeah.
about what's going on in Palestine? Why are you funding them if this is like, people are getting murdered? The international outcry, the UN, they're calling for a ceasefire. When are you going to also call for a ceasefire?
Yeah, why is
Like,
the UN blocked 3 times the ceasefire? Why is your administration blocking
3 times?
the ceasefire when Palestinians are getting slaughtered? And say what you will about Donald Trump, right? And this is once again the controlled environment. Look who they have around him. They're laughing. How's it feel driving the car? How fast did you go? Stupid ass fucking questions trying to humanize our fucking elitist president. Donald Trump would walk to a crowd of reporters knowing that there was a lot of enemies there. He would argue with them, fake news, but he would take questions from anybody who would throw them at him. Did he answer a lot of them right? No, but at least he had the balls to do it. These people are just a controlled environment, and when somebody does ask a question, no, I'm not going to answer unless you put yourself in front of the
It's
car.
polite genocide
The
versus
fuck
like
outta
an
here.
outright, oh, this is what we do. The politeness adds another layer of psychopathy to it.
Yeah.
Oh, Joe Biden can speak well. Well, what do you think? Do
Can
you
he?
give a shit if Palestinians?
Yeah.
Do Palestinians
He's more
care that he
well-spoken.
can speak well? No, they don't care. They get bombs dropped on them just the same. And when speaking to Eva, she basically told me, like, nothing really changes. I mean, essentially, it doesn't really change. But Biden is worse because Biden has more blood on his hands thus far with what he's doing, by the way.
This is something I would have asked Joe Biden, is what I'm pointing to right here and stuff like
Right.
that. Read this here, fam, because this is something that's disgusting, because they're using weapons that are banned, that are illegal on civilians.
So the Washington Post narrative management, right, it's to say that Israeli strikes are on Hamas tunnels when they've actually struck residential homes, schools, hospitals, and roads to hospitals. Remember, if journalism doesn't challenge the abuse from those in power, it is not journalism but propaganda. So this is from the Washington Post. Israel says it will step up strikes on Hamas tunnels despite ceasefire calls as clashes erupt in the West Bank. Hamas tunnels supposedly are underneath these houses. That's what they say. So the truth is, the Palestinian Ministry of Health said that at least 42 people in Gaza City were killed in Israeli attacks, even on Sunday, that leveled buildings and targeted roads leading to a hospital, preventing ambulances from reaching the wounded. Medical doctors were among the dead, according to the health ministry, which called on the international community to protect the already fragile health system in the Gaza Strip. They already have fragile health system because they don't have access to all the medical technology that they should have access to. See, this is where my Grey's Anatomy stuff comes in handy.
you're
No, but
right.
it's true. Like they can't fight. Like you're a doctor and you're trying to help people right, while you have to deal with blackouts, while you have to deal with rockets, but like not having the supplies you need, not having the latest top surgical equipment that can make a difference between life or death that you need. Like that is a fact. On top of that, of what's happening, And they're gaslighting. They're lying to the American public, saying, "Oh, these are the Hamas tunnels." What they have zero proof. Netanyahu's been asked multiple times to provide proof that Hamas was in the building of the AP and Al Jazeera that they knocked down. That Hamas is anywhere. It's like the Hamas is their version of the Russians. They're everywhere. They're underneath the bed. But they're targeting residential areas, and it's disgusting.
This is also what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Fam, read this here because this is just terrible. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, look at the mindset of this situation, what's going on in Gaza.
So a father in Gaza said, "I did the strangest thing today. I exchanged my children with my brothers. I took 2 of his children and gave him 2 of mine. So if I get bombed, one of mine will survive. And if he gets bombed, one of his will live on."
Think of the fucking mentality that you have to do that. Like, to think about that. Think about that, ladies and gentlemen. That is what we are funding. That is what we are propping up. That is what we are supporting. That is the blood we have on our hands. When a father has to go to his brother and say, "Hey, listen, let's swap out a couple kids so in case we all get bombed, one of our children will survive and vice versa." That to even have that thought process come into play, ladies and gentlemen. What else we got?
This one, the main office
Qazi
of
Ayaz?
Qatar Hilal Amar.
Yeah.
A large organization carrying out relief activities in Gaza. So this is the Office of Relief Activities for Gaza, has also been targeted in Israeli bombardment. The offices of Hilal Amar are also safe during the war, but there is no law for Israel. So during a time of war, these are supposed to be like you don't target these zones.
Yeah.
They're not safe according
for
to
aid.
Israel.
But that's what they do, fam.
Yeah.
They deter people from going in there to help. That's why they're doing it. They're bombing roads to hospitals. They're bombing volunteer services like this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they're making a determined for anybody to come in and try to help out.
It's not by accident.
No.
Oh,
it's by
all
design.
targeted. It's all targeted.
Oh,
It's not-
yeah.
it's all targeted.
Yeah,
but
they
You
say
read
that Hamas
earlier.
is there.
Yeah.
You
Hamas
read that
is
earlier that Bowen makes those targeted
there.
bombs.
It's all by design. They know what they're doing.
They know what they're doing.
They know
But
what
they
they're doing.
use the thing of Hamas. So when you as a congressperson or when you as anybody that has influence in media, you say, "Oh, Hamas must be condemned," you are allowing this to happen because then they can use that excuse to say you're manufacturing consent. Oh, by the way, yes, Hamas is a terrorist organization that needs to be blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, and the fact is that I don't give a shit if the Hamas is responsible. Does that give you the right to bomb other civilians?
They
when you
have
say
the
you're
right
going after Hamas?
to defend themselves.
Oh, okay. Fam, what do we got here? Because this is really sad. It says, "Where is my foot, my child?"
Where is your foot, my
My
child?
child,
The
yeah.
occupation took it away with its aircraft missiles, accompanied by all the family members. They left me alone and without a mother, without a father, without brothers and sisters, and without a foot. Hashtag Gaza under attack. So again, when you think about the kids, you're saying, okay, 42 children are dead. That doesn't count the children or the people that have injuries, like losing your leg. Like, I mean, to anybody, I don't know about you, but to me, that would be devastating. That would change your entire life. It changes, especially in a country where you don't even have access to any type of health care at all. And so what?
Not even have fresh water.
That cuts your life short. Like, it's just all these things when you don't think about, the thousands injured. What are those injuries and what the significance of that is? From TRT World News or World Now, Israel continues its relentless and brutal aggression on Palestinian civilians in Gaza and the occupied West Bank. Follow the thread for our latest Palestinian-related coverage. And so they've been doing a lot of coverage. Here's just some pictures on that. The military the Israeli military released missiles on civilians for the 9th consecutive day. That was the other day. They continue, this has been nonstop. You can continue watching the thread, but I just wanted to point out, this is what they're digging people out of rubble.
Yeah.
They're, it's bad, guys. It's bad. And when you're a journalist covering that over there, your life is in danger. I mean, talking to Eva, I know bullets came within inches of her during the time she was there. And that's the thing, that's real journalism, actually going there and covering the things, or at the very least showing what's there. A lot of these, the Israeli government, doesn't want that to be shown. So what they'll do is they'll deport the journalist. They'll kick him out. They don't want that to happen. I know when Gaza Fights for Freedom was happening, they couldn't even go into it. They couldn't even go inside Gaza. They had to have other Palestinian journalists. The thing is, when you have an international journalist, somebody that's an American or a European, it protects the Palestinians because they can't just shoot you like that. It would be an international outcry to shoot an American journalist. That's why, so many of them, some of them go to also, they talked about reading Eva's accounts, protecting them in certain ways by just her being there, which is disgusting. It's like, my life shouldn't be worth more than a Palestinian's life. That's not how it should be, but that's just
that's how it is.
How it is.
And this is from Molala, Free Palestine. She says, when it comes to Palestinian women's rights, children's rights, and human rights disappear.
There's just some pictures
just some
there.
more pictures, and you can see this stuff going on. These are women and children. I got the next one up right here. Okay, that was the same one. Let me see if you have it down here. I'll get over there 1 second.
This, Professor.
This one here, right?
Yeah. I wanted to read this because this is an important tweet.
That's the same tweet you have. All right. Is that in the next one?
No, it's right there. Just
okay. I think it might be here. You want me to read it from there, though, fam?
Yeah, just go ahead and read it.
It says Israel's universal health care system, here it is ranked 3rd in the world. Israel is the 6th healthiest country. Israel ranks 8th in life expectancy. The U.S. gives Israel $40 billion every decade.
Right.
Meanwhile, 68,000 Americans die every year because we don't have the universal health care system.
Okay, so this is what I want to point out about this. Our foreign policy is directly tied to our domestic policy, right? If it's true that we don't have money to feed the poor, for education, for housing, for healthcare here, yet Israel has higher life expectancy than we do. Israel has healthcare that we do not. Israel has all these things. Where are all my conservative friends who are so mad at the global South and the immigrant countries that these illegals are coming and taking our jobs and they're getting free healthcare? First of all, we don't get healthcare. They're definitely not getting free healthcare. 1. 2, hello, look who's taking all the money. Why aren't you looking up at who's really controlling this here? Like this is this country that is taking all of your resources. And these are the corporations, the elites that go to the global South, exploit these people for slave wages, and then take your American-made union jobs and kaput. They're gone, and that's why you're fucked. It's that is the essence of why you're fucked. Why does Israel have a higher life expectancy than America?
Yeah.
What? Like
they have free
meanwhile,
education too.
The Palestinian life expectancy. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like it's night and day. It's disgusting, and we're still funding this. Like, guys, there's nothing less than the defunding of Israel, the boycotting of their products, the divestment of their products, and the sanctioning of their products. The sanctions we always put out, and we say, well, that's necessary. For once, try them on Israel.
And let's just point out the fact that Israelis have a longer life expectancy than Americans. They have better health care than Americans. And guess what? Israel gets their money from American taxpayer dollars.
Why aren't you outraged about that?
Why not? I love this last tweet over here, fam. This is so awesome.
The reason I put it in there, it's because we live in an empire, and we're
play the video
run by warmongers. Yeah.
Let's play the video, and I'll read the tweet in my best slow news day voice.
When I was a cadet, what's the cadet motto at West Point? You will not lie, cheat, or steal, or tolerate those who do. I was the CIA director. We lied, we cheated, we stole. It was like we had entire training courses. It reminds you of the glory of the American experiment. When I was a cadet.
Yeah.
Never forget, fam, that Mike Pompeo is a gigantic blob of satanic jello. That's all I'm going to say right now. I'm here with my better than co-host, Jonny Tsunami, and Fiorella.
Better than your co-host.
Better than your co-host. I just want to say that because I think it's disgusting that we sit there and we applaud fat pieces of crap like Mike Pompeo.
Guys, the CIA and the military-industrial complex and the national security apparatus literally are telling you, they're laughing. They're saying, we are trained to lie. They are trained to lie. They are trained to be criminals, but they are criminals that are allowed criminals. They're elite criminals. They get away with this. These are the people in charge of the country. These are the American experience is being an empire that can go all over the world and commit war crimes. This is why Julian Assange is in jail. I say it every single time. If Julian Assange didn't expose a lot of this, we wouldn't be here today. We wouldn't be here doing this. Julian Assange was somebody that really brought a lot of this out in the public through WikiLeaks. And the fact is, this isn't just Israel-Palestine. This isn't just what we do to Palestinians. This is what we do to all over the world. And Israel's a large part of that. And we're done using the trope of anti-Semitism when we criticize the state of Israel. I'm not criticizing Jewish people's religion or ethnicity. I'm talking about the state of Israel that is committing war crimes. It's committing genocide on Palestinians and is trying to become basically the United States co-partner as an empire. And that has to end. And it's not going to end until you defund the Pentagon, until you defund Israel, until you basically, in order to defund Israel, you need to defund the Pentagon.
Yeah, we got to fix our elections, get rid of these assholes, get rid of the money going out there.
I don't know, fam. We do have to fix our elections, but I think it's going to require us getting in the streets for this. People understanding, you see how everything's connected from your Medicare for all, from workers' rights, from our lack of living health, like all these things that we have, another country has and is committing genocide on our behalf. All of this is interconnected. The imperialism, all of that is directly connected. I'm so glad people are getting out in the streets for wages, for Medicare for all, but we need to get out in the streets against imperialism and against censorship, against the stand against the press. Fuck censorship, right? Yep. People like MSNBC, CNN, Washington Post, New York Times, the AP, you see how even though they don't even respect them, Netanyahu bombed their buildings too. It doesn't matter, guys.